Hi, and welcome to my channel on ADHD and personality. Today I will answer some questions regarding 10 basics that are commonly misunderstood and ask you to watch and wait for number 10 as it is most important and I will be enlarging on it. I know you don't have patience and I'm trying to make this short. We are different, but not irregular or aberrant. Number 2, everyone can experience difficulties with attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. This does not qualify as a diagnosis. 3, a diagnosis is made by a competent professional. 4, statistics. 5 to 8% of people are diagnosed with ADHD. It is a distinct diagnosis and not everyone has ADHD. 5, ADHD is neurological, biological, genetic, and hereditary. From the womb to the tomb, I say. We are born with it and it persists over life, but expresses itself differently over different developmental stages. Functioning and coping improve with medication, therapy, and raising of awareness, mindfulness, and consciousness. Medication can be very efficient in improving functioning for a given period of time, but it is insufficient. 7. Why is it efficient but insufficient? Because medication does not tell us anything about ourselves, and its effects are not lasting as understanding and explanation are. Universal guidelines specify combining medication with parent and teacher counseling. 8, and this is really important, this is not about bad parenting or teaching. An informed professional needs to accompany the parents, break down and explain a complex subject with all its varied ramifications and implications in simple terms. The parents will in turn explain this to the environment or to significant others. 9, ADHD is not necessarily an indication of high intelligence. There is no correlation between intelligence and ADHD. But the greater the intelligence of the individual, the greater the gaps in functioning, and thus the greater the frustration. He does not understand why he does not succeed as he should, and looks around and asks himself why others, sometimes less talented, seem to be succeeding without exerting so much effort. And now I wish to enlarge on what I see as the critical issue that is repeatedly misunderstood. Number 10. ADHD can be explained by difficulties in regulating attention and drives. And by drives, I refer to hyperactivity and impulsivity. What are difficulties with regulation? Why are they so important and basic to understanding ADHD? When an individual is able to regulate herself, she can control her attention, her pace and impulses, and she can choose to act consciously. The ability to regulate ourselves and control our immediate impulses gives us the chance to stop and pause before acting, or to think about a given event after it has passed, to compare and to analyze things and to learn from them. We learn from past experience how to direct ourselves in the present and in the future. Regulation also enables us to talk to ourselves, break down information or data we receive, and reconstruct it into messages or responses. In other words, to perform analysis and synthesis. It enables us to separate reality from imagination. With regulation, we can expand our imagination or persist in a given game, class, or other task. Our ability to regulate ourselves enables us to separate facts from emotions. When we assess a given situation, it enables us to think before we act. We can also understand past events in order to predict the future. Nobody is born with this ability to regulate themselves. This is a developmental ability that is achieved over time. In people diagnosed with ADHD, the frontal lobes of the brain, responsible for regulatory functions, display low activity or underdevelopment. As a result, functions associated with attention and impulse control are impaired, resulting in hyperactivity, impulsivity, inattention, and distraction. I want to stop here and ask you to think. Does this scientifically based knowledge enable you to understand behavior differently? Is this a light bulb moment for you? Does it explain differently what it means to be ADHD and why these children can suddenly lash out and hit? Why they can be explosive, get so overly carried away, take spontaneous, deep, and sometimes dangerous dives, swear and tell such transparent lies, seem to be all confused in their seemingly confabulated stories, mixing up facts and fantasies, why they get easily bored or fed up, have difficulty keeping friends, persisting with activities, or just enjoying play. How many times have you said, "I have said this 1,000 times and he just doesn't seem to learn"? If an individual, child or adult, is diagnosed with ADHD, and we have thoroughly examined the difficulties with regulation of impulses, these difficulties can be clearly explained by difficulties with regulation. I want you, significant adults in their lives, to pause here. Think, rethink, contemplate, understand, and internalize this. I truly ask you to chew on it for a while. I want you to understand there's a genuine difficulty with regulation of attention and impulses, which can be seen as emotional dysregulation. This is about an overload of drive or impulses in the system that needs to be unloaded and has nothing to do with emotional content or conflict. Nobody is to blame, but we responsible adults have to understand and distinguish between primary emotional difficulties, which are a spin-off or a byproduct of difficulties with regulation that stem from ADHD. We first need to understand and be convinced of this before we can advocate for and explain this to our children. We need to talk to them about these genuine difficulties with regulation of attention and impulses that can be so easily confused as emotional baggage. The child, for example, lashes out because he has genuine difficulties with regulation of his impulses at a given moment, and he cannot choose to stop and think about his actions or behavior, not because he's an aggressive child, not because he is conflictual, disagreeable, chooses to fight, or can often be even labeled as being violent, issues with regression, oppression, aggression, repression, denial, or dark shadows in the psyche or personality that need emotional therapy. This is not about these issues. It is also important to understand that the difficulties with regulation are unpredictable. An individual can be regulated at a given time and have extreme difficulties in just another moment, especially under stress or when there's an overload of drive or attention in the system. This confuses us. Think about how much anxiety and confusion it can cause them. If we are convinced of this, we can address the difficulties with regulation of impulses which result in undesired behavior that must be curbed. This is not to be used as an excuse or a discount coupon. But this issue of regulation and this is what needs to be addressed. This is the reason I am here, and this is why I wrote my comprehensive textbook that has been very impressively reviewed by leading professionals, Talking ADHD. I myself do not believe that this seemingly logical explanation is still so misunderstood. It seems so basic. So to summarize, ADHD is about understanding, coping, and curbing difficulties with attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. But the real difficulty is with the misunderstood emotional baggage that is a spin-off of the ADHD. It is imperative that therapy or treatment for ADHD address the neurological base of the disorder, which is the regulation of attention, impulses, and hyperactivity. Any treatment program or form of therapy that does not take this into account can be damaging, contribute to unnecessary anxiety, a feeling of loneliness, even depression, yet another overdose of disappointment, and perpetuate that ever so familiar feeling of being again misunderstood. Remember, when we don't understand people with ADHD, they have difficulty understanding themselves. Thank you, and I hope this was helpful.